In the early 15th century, the world stood at the precipice of monumental change. The Americas, a vast and diverse land, was home to indigenous societies that had thrived for thousands of years. But this land, rich in resources, would soon become the focus of one of the most significant and transformative episodes in history, European colonization. The great empires of the Aztecs, Incas, and Mayans, along with hundreds of smaller nations, were flourishing, creating advanced cities, vast trade routes, and impressive technological feats. But soon, explorers from distant lands would change the world forever. In this documentary, we explore the complex and often painful story of how the Americas were colonized. We'll trace the journey of explorers like Columbus, the political and cultural forces that shaped the New World, and the lasting legacy of this profound period in history. Join us as we uncover the entire history of the colonization of the Americas, an event that still echoes through the ages. In this documentary, we explore the complex and often painful story of how the Americas were colonized. We'll trace the journey of explorers like Columbus, the political and cultural forces that shaped the New World, and the lasting legacy of this profound period in history. Join us as we uncover the entire history of the colonization of the Americas, an event that still echoes through the ages. Before the arrival of Europeans, the Americas were home to thriving civilizations, each with its own unique culture and system of governance. In what is now Mexico, the Aztecs had built a vast empire, with millions of people living in one of the largest cities of the ancient world, Tenochtitlan. In South America, the Incas ruled over an empire that spanned the rugged Andes Mountains, mastering agriculture, engineering, and astronomy. From the Maya in Central America to the indigenous groups of the American plains, every region was home to societies rich in art, knowledge, and spiritual traditions. These peoples were masters of agriculture, having domesticated corn, potatoes, and other crops, transforming the land into vibrant ecosystems that supported millions. From the Maya in Central America to the indigenous groups of the American plains, every region was home to societies rich in art, knowledge, and spiritual traditions. These peoples were masters of agriculture, having domesticated corn, potatoes, and other crops, transforming the land into vibrant ecosystems that supported millions. Though diverse in culture and language, these societies shared remarkable achievements. The Maya created an advanced calendar system that predicted celestial events, while the Inca engineered vast road networks, making travel possible across the harsh Andes. These civilizations had a profound understanding of nature, science, and human connection. By the late 15th century, Europe was poised on the edge of a new era, the age of exploration. At the time, European nations sought new trade routes to the east and riches from lands beyond the known world. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, a Genoese navigator, embarked on his voyage under the Spanish crown, hoping to find a shortcut to Asia by sailing westward. What he encountered instead would change the course of history forever. Columbus' discovery of the Americas was the catalyst for the colonization that would soon follow. What was initially seen as a serendipitous encounter with the New World soon turned into a wave of exploration, conquest, and colonization. Over the following decades, explorers like Vasco da Gama, Hernán Cortés, and Francisco Pizarro would lead their respective nations into the heart of the Americas. Among the most pivotal moments in the history of colonization was the Spanish conquest of the great empires of the Americas. The Aztecs, led by Montezuma, and the Incas, ruled vast regions, but these empires would soon face the devastating effects of European conquest. Among the most pivotal moments in the history of colonization was the Spanish conquest of the great empires of the Americas. The Aztecs, led by Montezuma, and the Incas, ruled vast regions, but these empires would soon face the devastating effects of European conquest. In 1519, Hernán Cortés, armed with a mere few hundred men, landed in the heart of the Aztec Empire. Using a combination of diplomacy, alliances, and force, Cortés took control of the empire. But it wasn't just military prowess that led to his victory, it was also the devastating effects of European diseases like smallpox that weakened the Aztec population, leaving them vulnerable to conquest. Similarly, in 1533, Francisco Pizarro captured the Inca emperor, Atahualpa, and soon brought the mighty Inca Empire to its knees. What followed was a brutal campaign to seize the resources of the Americas, gold, silver, and land, all of which would enrich Spain and transform Europe. The fall of these empires marked the beginning of a European colonial system that would exploit the Americas for centuries to come. Spanish and Portuguese colonists, along with later English, French, and Dutch settlers, built a network of colonies across the New World. One of the darkest chapters of the colonial system was the encomienda, a system in which Spanish settlers were granted control over indigenous populations. These settlers were tasked with protecting the indigenous peoples in exchange for labor, though in reality, it was a form of slavery. As the Spanish built their empire in the Americas, so too did the English, the French, and the Dutch. These countries, though engaged in a brutal race for resources, followed different methods of colonization, each leaving its own legacy in the Americas. In the 1600s, England began to establish its presence in the Americas. The first successful English colony, Jamestown, was founded in 1607 in what is now Virginia. Unlike the Spanish colonies, which sought to exploit gold and silver, the English colonies were primarily motivated by economic reasons, including farming, trade, and the pursuit of religious freedom. The English would go on to found colonies along the eastern seaboard of North America. From Plymouth in 1620 to Massachusetts Bay and beyond, they established a thriving settler economy, reliant on agriculture, tobacco, and trade. Yet, these colonies, too, would eventually become embroiled in the struggles for power that would lead to the American Revolution. While the English were expanding their empire, the French and Dutch had their own ambitions in the Americas. The French, motivated by fur trading, established colonies in Canada and along the Mississippi River. The Dutch, in turn, founded New Amsterdam, which would later become New York City. Though the French and Dutch colonies were smaller in scale, their presence was still significant. The French worked closely with Native Americans, forming alliances for trade, while the Dutch sought to create a thriving mercantile empire. Together, these powers contributed to the Europeanization of the New World. The colonization of the Americas is a story of conflict, exploitation, and survival. For the indigenous peoples, it was a time of unimaginable loss, as their lands were taken, their cultures ravaged, and their lives forever altered. For the European powers, it was an opportunity for expansion, wealth, and power. Today, the legacy of colonization is still felt across the Americas. From the nations built on these colonial foundations to the enduring cultures of indigenous peoples, the story of the Americas' colonization is far from over. It's a tale that continues to shape the lives of millions. As we reflect on this history, it is crucial to remember that the Americas were not a new world but a land rich in culture, tradition, and life long before European contact. Understanding this history helps us navigate the present and future of the Americas.